So I'm gonna try to do the week 12 video again. This has been my worst attempts at making the video. I think this is my fourth time. So let's see. I hope I'll do it well this time. They weren't little mistakes, they were big mistakes, so I had to start over. I guess this kind of brings me to my joke. What do we want? A cure for short-term memory loss. When do we want it? What do we want again? Right? These were my issues if I forgot things that I wanted, and I'm so bad at video editing that I'm like, will it take me more or less time to try to edit all these videos together, or should I just try again? So I'm trying again. Anyways, I want to preview week 12's assignments. You're going to be moving from memory into intelligence, so we'll go over that. I want to go over the Improving Memory project a little bit and actually test your memory capacity, so sort of get you started on that project that you read last week. And then I kind of want to review what you've been doing with memory with the fact and fiction, just as a way to review some key terms, and then have you work on some more College Board practice questions, because there's so many terms associated with memory that maybe I missed a few, and by doing those multiple choice questions, you might pick up some missed terms. So let's first go and preview. So in week 12, you're going to be working a lot with intelligence, right? And then also working on the project. But there's a discussion here right away on personal and cultural experiences with intelligence. I think we have to start from a point of, what does intelligence mean to us? And that's usually not an individual definition. It usually comes from our culture. So what our parents tell us, what our teachers tell us, what we hear around us. So again, remember, these discussions have no right or wrong answers. I'm not at all interested in what an AI tells you intelligence means. I really want to know, what does it mean to be smart, right? What does it mean to be intelligent to you? All right, so please do the discussion, letting me know what you think. And then you're going to look at the different theories of intelligence, because there's not just one theory. You're going to look at psychometric, just means how do they measure intelligence. You're going to look at, what does it mean to be disabled or gifted. And then at the end of the week, there's another discussion on creativity. And this one really hits home with me, because I spent so much of my life thinking I wasn't very creative. And now I don't think that at all. So if you were ever able to spend time in my house or my garden, you would see which you're going to learn, are little C ways in which I'm quite a creative person, even though I still can't draw. But I do find that my garden is my canvas. So every year I think about colors and textures and heights, and it's like a 3D piece of artwork in my mind. And maybe nobody ever will appreciate it, but I still like walking out there. All right, so we're having our the video, and I want to go over from last week. I just had you read this Improving Memory project. So let's look at this for just a minute here, because we're going to start with this in our lesson. So one of the things, if you wanted to improve your long-term memory, one strategy might be repeated rehearsals. So here's me already offering you a repeated rehearsal by having you review different types of memory. So here I just have review to help you go over it again. And then you're going to evaluate your memory. This can include more qualitative description, right, of how well you feel you've been able to memorize. It could be, your biology test from last week, of how you thought your long-term memory worked. It could also be some easier tests, right? So I have some, Simon is a visual auditory short-term memory, and then some other measures here. So get a baseline, so establish where you are before you start. Then you're going to make a plan. So you need 4 different types of memory that you want to improve. Could be repeats, right? You could have 2, I want to improve short-term memory, what's a strategy? Short-term memory, what's a strategy? It doesn't have to be 4 different types, but I want you to practice 4 different strategies. Why 4 strategies? Because I want you to find one that works, right? Not all strategies work for everybody. So if you just did one strategy and that didn't work, then you might think this project was worthless. So pick 4 different strategies. Why do you think they'll work to start? Then use them, right? Use your strategies. I hope it's not just for the sake of doing this project. I really hope it's to help you in one of your other classes, right? So try to make it be useful, and then you're going to evaluate it. Why does it work? And so in the end, you're going to have your baseline, you're going to have the 4 strategies, you're going to have why you think those strategies will work, and whether or not it helps you. And in terms of timing for this, I put this after Thanksgiving. So we're on week 12. I put it in week 14 is Thanksgiving, so that's a short week. Week 15, we're actually on unit 3, but I went ahead and put the Improving Memory project to turn it in. So you have some time, and I hope that the time will help you make it be useful. All right, so that is, I'm done on the course page. So you see next week you're working on intelligence, and let's go about, I need to cover this. All right, let's go about, and I'm going to cover who this is. All right, I had it covered, and then when I redid the video, I forgot to redo that. That's okay. You didn't see anything. So we're going to do a kind of a test of memory capacity. So this is how much can your auditory short-term memory hold. All right, and the key to this is you need a piece of paper and pencil. So pause the video if you don't have that, or a pen, just something to write with, and a little piece of paper, maybe your notebook. All right, and the key here is don't write anything until I stop saying the numbers. All right, so I'm going to start with a few bits of numbers, and then I'm going to work up towards more. And you can't try to write them as fast as I say them, because that's not seeing how much you can hold in your working memory, right? In your short-term working memory. That is just writing down as fast as you can. All right, so trial 1. Ready? Listen, and when I stop, then you should write. So trial 1, 2, 8. All right, write down what you heard. Trial 2, 3, 2, 6, 1. Write down what you heard. Third trial, 2, 6, 7, 4, 1, 3. Write down what you heard. Fourth one, 7, 2, 7, 2, 2, 9, 8, 7. Write down what you heard. Fifth trial, 5, 7, 2, 4, 3, 8, 4, 5, 3, 6. Write down what you heard. All right, last trial. 9, 8, 2, 2, 8, 8, 1, 9, 8, 7, 4, 4. Write down what you heard. All right, so now we can check them. Let's see what you got. First one, if you have 2 and 8, say, yep, I got it. Second one, 3, 2, 6, 1. See if you got it. Third one, 2, 6, 7, 4, 1, 3. Fourth trial, 7, 2, 7, 2, 2, 9, 8, 7. Fifth trial, 5, 7, 2, 4, 3, 8, 4, 5, 3, 6. And the last one we did was 9, 8, 2, 2, 8, 8, 198744. All right, so how'd you do? So each of these is considered one little bit of information. And this guy, George A. Miller, he did some research and he came up that most people can remember 7 digits plus or minus 2. So at the lower end, 5, and at the higher end, 9. But that pretty much limits our capacity for processing oral auditory information like this. Now, what's interesting is, now, well, number one, we have 7-digit phone numbers, but a strategy for remembering this would be something called chunking, because when we try to chunk the numbers, we take 7 digits and we organize it like a phone number. Or if we had digits, we could also organize it like a birthday, right? And those are ways in which we can put together numbers and remember them easier. And I have a little bit of a funny story here because you can get really good at this. So in China, when I worked there for a short amount of time, the Chinese staff were completely used to being given identification numbers and passwords that were just digits. And so they could look at their identification number for like a login system and their login password and then just be 20 digits in a row. And all the foreigners are looking like, how in the world are we going to remember this? And they would look at it and in 3 minutes they'd have it memorized because they were probably chunking, but they also just had a huge amount of practice with needing to remember digits. So it is possible. So on the project, the reason I did this activity is here was let's say that I could remember 2, 4, 6 digits, and I'm going to practice chunking strategies, right? And then you could see, could you remember more, right? But again, this has limited usefulness because we don't have to remember numbers like this very often, right? So I do want your project to be meaningful to you. All right, now we're going to go to this fact or falsehood as a way of reviewing some of what you have done and reviewing some terms that I see come up a lot. So, true or false? Adults primed with money-related words are less likely to help another person when asked. True or false? When people learn something after drinking a 6-pack of caffeinated drink, they recall it best when they again drink a 6-pack of caffeinated drink. And this isn't just because they drank caffeine, right? We could have this be if they had a beer while they were studying, they would recall it best when they had a beer when they were testing on it. All right. Or even like a ticking clock. If you have a ticking clock when you study, you'll do better. Oh, I'm giving you the answer. When you have a ticking clock when you take the test. All right. When introduced to a group of people, we tend to forget the names of the first and last people introduced more than those in the middle. True or false? So when we are introduced with a whole group of people, we forget the names at the beginning, at the end, and we remember those in the middle. True or false? You should mix your study of psychology with your mix of other subjects to boost your long-term retention. I wonder why Mrs. Hinman tells me to work each day of the week. Anyways, all right, number 1, our adults or prime money related words are less likely to help another person. That is true. All right. And we can see a little bit of this priming. It's not the same kind of example, but also just our brain goes in sequences, right? Certain things lead us to do things. So what color is the snow? What color are clouds? What do cows drink? Right? So how many people said cows drink milk? Right? Because we're used to these very easy answers, and our brain, cows and drink, and we drink milk, and most of the time people don't say water to number 3, right? This is another example of priming to get us to think in a certain direction. And I gave this one away. People learn something. If they drink caffeinated drinks, they should take the test. They recall it best with caffeinated drinks. That is true. All right. And that is something called state-dependent memory. All right. So we have our memory is based on context, is for sure, right? But we also remember things based on our state. Even if we're like angry, right? I'm angry when I'm studying, right? I would be better to be angry when I recall it. Or if I'm drinking, I might remember something better the next time I have drinks because my memory works better in that state. All right. When introduced to a group of people, we tend to forget the names of the first and last. I hope you said this one is false because it is exact reverse. We tend to remember the first and the last and not in the middle. And you might even come back up here and see, was this true? Were you more likely to get the first digits and the last digits as we started to have these longer trials, right? Did you mix up the middle and maybe you got the first couple and the last couple? And this is called the serial position effect, fancy names, but position of a word in the list, right? The first position versus the 12th position, and the percentage of the words we recall. The later recall the first terms. This is called the primacy effect. So this, to get this, if I ask you to recall them right away, immediate recall, we do better with the last. So if I just read it to you and I ask you right away, you are going to remember the recency effect, the last, more. But if I ask you later, right, like there's some time between when you memorize it and I recall it, you do remember the first better. So that's called the primacy effect, right? So this is recalled very quickly, and this is later recall. So we do better with the beginning if we wait to hear something. Interesting. And again, why we often need to repeat something to get this middle part up, right? We need to hear it more than once. All right, and last one, you should mix your study of psychology with your other subjects to boost long-term retention. That is true. And so on your memory project, if one of the things you want to improve is your long-term memory, let's say for biology, then you should make sure that maybe I study a little psychology and then I switch to biology and then I switch to chemistry. This will help your long-term memory versus just trying to do something all at once. All right, I did make it to the end of the video and I'm going to finish it, and I don't think anybody's going to come in and ruin it. Hopefully, cross my fingers. I made a quiz for you of just terms having to do with memory. It's called the Week 12 quiz. All right. I think I set the settings a little bit different. You're going to get immediate feedback, but I think you can only answer each question twice. So the last time I made a quiz, I let you get immediate feedback and keep answering it till you got the right one. But this one's only going to give you one extra chance just to see what you know. And one of the things to upload for this week's assignment will be any unknown terms. So really focus on keeping track of words that are in the multiple choice, even the answer choices, and the questions that you don't know, and put in definitions of those words so that we make sure we're getting all the terms covered. So for today's lesson, upload any notes you took, and then make sure you upload your quiz results and any terms that you didn't know. Thank you, and thank you to me for making it through this video. Have a good week, and make sure you send me your questions and concerns.